Okay, so someone asked for a quick review of factoring. And I know in high school, some of them do the little diamond thing. I don't like it. It's too slow. I can show you option B, which again, I think is too slow, but this is kind of what I do. So you have hard factoring, meaning, well, harder, I should say. There's a coefficient here. So you have some options. This could be 4 times 1, 2 times 2, causing you to get that. 30 is, what are the factors of 30? 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 4 doesn't work, 5 and 6. Okay, I will give you a hint. Usually it's ones close together that are your factors, especially if this number is not extreme. If this number is huge, like 100 and some, I would probably do the 30 and the 4 and 1, because I would in my brain think, oh, I need that 30 paired with the 4 to get 120. Like that's the only way that's going to happen. So if you have a huge number there, I might start with the extremes, but usually it's the ones that are close together that work. Okay. Not always, but usually. Okay. So I would try 5 and 6 with that. And then I try 5 and 6 with that and see. And then if not, then I try 3 and 10 with that, 3 and 10 with that. And I keep trying. So let's try 2A and 2A, because I need to get the 4A squared. That's there. And then I like to do kind of the whole loopy idea. So I have 5 and 6, and I'm just going to, I don't know, put them in here. If I do that, this is 10A and this is 12A. Well, notice if I add or subtract those, I do not get 29. So right now, I know that's wrong. But before I give up on 5 and 6, I have to turn it around, because maybe I have them in the wrong place, right? Now notice I have 2 and 2, so it's not going to matter in this problem. But if, if one of these was 3A and 2A, it would matter. All right, so I can get a 22 if I add, I can get a 2 if I subtract. That's not that. Now, because I know usually it's the middle numbers, before I start trying 2 and 10, I'm going to give up on this, and I'm going to try 4A and 1A, okay? And again, I'm going to try 5 and 6, and I don't know, I'll just put the 6 here and 5 here on purpose. I'm going to do the loopies, okay, because I know this is wrong, is why I did it on purpose. All right, this is 20A. This gives me 6A. That's 26 or 14 if I add or subtract. That's not 29. But notice if I turn it around, I can see, ooh, 24 and 5. That makes a nice 29. So I'm going to put my 6 here and my 5 here. And when I do that, I'm like, oh, okay, so that one's going to be 24A. This is going to be 5A. That's going to be 29. And I love that. Now, I want it to be negative. Well, let's see if that works. If this is negative and that's negative, all right, so then my negative would follow. That would have to be negative there. That loopy would have to be negative. All right, let's see if this works. FOIL. First, 4A squared. Excellent. Outside negative 24, inside negative 5, that's negative 29. That's awesome. A negative times negative is a positive. I got it. Okay, so these are my two factors. Okay, so usually, again, 5 and 6 are probably going to work. If they don't, probably 3 and 10. So before I give up on 5 and 6, I'm going to try both fronts. Okay, now this is kind of guess and test. So kind of similar to this method, if you want, there's the AD method, all right? And so let me show you that. What you do, or AC method, I'm going to take the 4 times the 30. So you're going to take the leading coefficient by the A squared and the constant here at the end. So 4 times 30 is 120 right there. Okay, so some people like to factor that. The problem is there are tons of ways to factor 120. So you could have, I mean, you might be dividing a long time. 2 and 60, 3 and 40, 4 and 30, 5. You can use a calculator, but what does that go in there? Twice? Is that 24? Yeah. You could go 6 and 20. 7 doesn't work. You could do 8 and 15, I think, something like that. And you could keep going. Okay. If you do this method, the AC method, where you take the coefficient of A times C, what you're looking for are things that add or subtract to 29. Okay. So I'm going to quit, and the reason is I found a 29. Okay. Now you can either do factoring by grouping here, or you can do the box. Okay. If you do factoring by grouping, if I could talk, what people do here is they break the negative 29 into the negative of those two numbers. So they make these both negative. So they have a negative 24A, negative 5A. That gives you your negative 29A. And then they have their plus 30. And what they do is they do factoring by grouping. So find the greatest common factor of these, 4a. What is it? A minus 6 is left, 4a, and then that. Okay. And here, if it's negative, you got to take the negative out too. So negative 5, that would be an a, and a negative times a negative gives you positive. So negative 5a, positive 30. All right. And then with factoring by grouping, you take out the GCF of these, GCF of these. Then you have to take the new greatest common factor. So the greatest common factor of the first two, greatest common factor of the last two. And then do you see how they both have an a minus 6 in common now? You're going to pull that out front. So a minus 6, and you only have one of them. And if you're like, well, why is there only one? Because if I distributed, I'd have a minus 6 times that guy and a minus 6 times that. So, okay. And then if you FOIL this out, you will get the right answer. It's just slow. And if you have like 1,000 here, think of all the possibilities you can come up with. Okay. So I tend to like to just do the loopies. I know that usually the middle ones tend to work. Okay. And I kind of go that route. If you want to do the box on this, you can. Some people like to do the box backwards. It's kind of the same thing. You would put, let's see, what are you trying to factor? You have a 30 here, 4a squared. You split into these, so negative 5 and a, and a negative 24a. And then you factor the box, okay? So like these two have a 4a in common. These two have a negative 5 in common. Going sideways, they just have an a in common. Going sideways, they have what? A negative 6 in common. Okay, now let's see how that works. So 4a times that is a squared, negative 5a, negative 24a, and positive 30. And then these are your factors on the side. All right, let me pause it. I'll do another one just so you can kind of see how I think about factoring. All right, the last one did say solve, so I did go ahead and finish that. So after you factor, you set each piece equals 0, inverse and isolate to get that. All right, let's look at another one. And I kept the same leading coefficient. I kept the 30, and I just changed the middle because if you mix and match it differently, you are going to get a different middle. So again, 4 is 1 and 4, 2 and 2, 30, again, we had this before. So 4 doesn't work, 5 and 6. Okay, and again, I usually try to start in the middles, and especially on this side, those usually work. So if I try 2a and 2a, I can get the 4a squared. And 5 and 6, it doesn't matter where I put them because the 2 is going to be the same like we saw last time. All right, so if I do this, I get 10a and what, 12a? Okay, that's 22 if I add them. If I subtract them, 2, negative 2, not that. Okay, so before I give up on 5 and 6, normally I would flop them if the 2's were different. I'm going to try 1 and 4, just in case. And so say I try 5 here and 6 here. I'm going to do my FOIL, my outside inside. This is what? 20 and 6. 26, no. If I subtract them, no. And again, before I give up, I'm going to flop them. So I'm going to put my 6 here and my 5 here. And notice, what do I get? 24a, and what is that? 5a, okay? So, that's not looking promising. All right, so I'm going to give up on 5 and 6. I tried it both ways. Now, instead of jumping all over, I'm going to try 3 and 10, because again, it usually tends to be the ones close together because 23 isn't that big of a number. All right, so let's try again. Again, I'll try 2a and 2a first, and I have 3 and 10. And the more you practice, you get faster at this. This is 20, 26. If I add 14, if I subtract, that's a no-go. And we're not giving up yet. So I'm going to put what did I do? 3 and 10, yeah. And I'll put my 3 over here. And I get 20 and 26. And if I subtract them, no. All right, so let's try 4a and a. And again, what are we doing? 3 and 10. See how I can see that's going to be 40, like way too big. And if I put it this way, 10 and 3. Ooh, now let's see, 10 and 12. Okay, sometimes there's more than one way that this works. And as far as like you think it works, but there's really only one way that actually works, okay? So let's try this and see what happens. If I make my loopies, I have 10a. And what do I have? 12a. And I'm thinking, oh, yeah, that's only 22. No, false alarm. All right, so I'm done with that. So now I'm going to try 2 and 15. Okay. So I'm kind of, usually, like I said, they do work, but so far we're kind of running out here. We'll try 2A and 2A. And let's just put, what do we have? 2 and 15. So we get 30 and 4. So 34, if I subtract them, 26. And again, order doesn't matter because they're the same. All right, let's try this one. If I put 15 with that, that's going to be like 60, right? So I don't want to do that. So let's put the 15 here and what, the 2 here. All right, so let's see, what do I get? 8A and 15A. Oh, finally, 23. Yes. Woo, it's been a lot of work. What is that? Negative. So I need both negatives. So my loopies, that follows as a negative, so does that. All right, and then check your answer. 4A squared is good. Negative and negative, negative 23A. Yep, and last is 30. I got it. So then I can set my 2 pieces equal to 0 because we're solving. Do the inverse and divide. So 15/4 is one of our answers. The other one, a minus 2 equals 0, is 2. So those are my 2 answers for A. Sorry about that. Okay. Now, again, on this one, if you want to try that AC method, you can. You're going to multiply these we did before, okay? And we had our long list. So let's see on our long list if any of them added up to 23. We might have to keep going. Oh, what did I do with my long list? Where did it go? Oh, here it is. Okay. So did any of these equal 23? Right here. Okay, 15 and 8 add up to be 23, or subtract, right? So 8 and 15. All right, so let's try this method with that. Okay, so we have what, 8 and 15? All right, so we have 8 and 15. So our original problem was this. So we had 8, and the other one was what, 15? And then what you're going to do is factor by grouping. And again, don't forget we're solving here. So GCF of these, they both have a 4 in common, A. You want the greatest common factors they have in common. This has an A left and a 2. Here, if it starts with a negative, you got to take that out. Negative 5 is the biggest thing they have in common, A, and then that would be a negative times negative to get a positive. And then, so you do GCF of these, and then you take out, oh, what happened here, Julie? Because these have to match. So something is not, did I copy the problem wrong? 4A squared. Oh, yeah, I messed up here. That would have been a 3. Okay, sorry about that. So notice I didn't take out the greatest common factor because there's a 3 in common and a 3 in common, right? And these have to match. So I'm like, I messed up, right? I can tell I messed up. So there is an error there. All right, let's try again. GCF here, I feel good on that one. Here, it's like, oh my gosh, Julie, they have a negative 15 in common. What are you doing? Ah, I feel way better. Do you see why I feel better? Because do you see how the new GCF is in common? If not, I'm out of luck. I need these to match. So this was a red flag, like, right? I did something wrong. Okay. Or it just doesn't work. But here we go. So now I have a new GCF. So that A minus 2 is going to come out. So I'm going to pull that out. And when I pull that out, 4A minus 15 is left. And that's what we had before. Okay. Now, if you want to do the box method with this, some people like that. You know that the 4A squared goes here in the box method. The plus 30 goes here. So as soon as you look at that chart and you find that it needs to be a negative 8A and a negative 15A, you can put them in here. All right, and then you look for what they have in common, right? And again, you just have to pick 2 sides. So how you do it, I don't care. But here they have a 4A in common, and it's positive because this leading coefficient is A, positive. And then 4A times that has to be an A to get that. This guy needs a negative 2 to equal that. And if I pull an A out from this guy, he needs what, a negative 15. And then it should all work. That makes that, negative 8A, that makes that, and that makes that. Okay, so what are my factors? These are my factors. 4A minus 15, and my other one is A minus 2. Now again, those work, but they're slow. Okay, then you'd set your 2 pieces equal to 0, and because it's telling you to solve, you would solve. Okay. So usually I think the loopies is faster, but if you are getting frustrated because you're like, this is too slow, then